Hello, and welcome to the Jared Hurst Podcast. This podcast is about understanding ourselves, others, and the tools that you can use in order to transform your life. Hey, so you'll notice we have a brand new introduction and a new podcast name. There's a couple of reasons for this, but the main thing is one, I want to avoid any possible legal problems in the future. I know of a few podcasts that have run into that, where they've had some names that are similar. Anyway, I don't need to get into it all, but I'd much rather avoid those now, so we're changing the name now before we need to run into it. And two, it just makes it easier to share with other people. What's the podcast? The Jared Hurst Podcast. You can go find it on Spotify or YouTube. So it should make it really easy to share with other people and help people touch as many lives as I possibly can. This week on the podcast, I want to talk with you about shame. Now, shame is one of those things that you may or may not think applies to you. If I ask you, I say, do you feel like you have shame in your life? What do you think? What is the answer? Do you have it? The great thing about life is that there is always new wonderful things for us to discover. Now, we have two sets of mind. We have a conscious mind and we have a subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is the thoughts, beliefs, identity, and everything else that's there inside our heads that we aren't consciously aware of. You have things in your mind that are making decisions for you, and you don't even know they exist. Have you had times like this where you thought to yourself, does this apply to me? Is this important to me? And the answer is no. And then a day later, a month later, whenever, it comes back into your life and you're like, oh my gosh, that thing I didn't think applied to me does. If you listen to the podcast, originally I said that it's about connecting with ourselves and others. And I clarified that. And now I introduce the podcast as it's about understanding ourselves and others. Because understanding is where we unlock the power to make decisions. It's where you have the ability to transform your life into what you want it to be. Because right now you have decisions that are being made for you on your behalf. You are a prisoner and you don't even realize that it's happening. And it's a prison of your own making. You have created these rules for yourself that you are living by and you don't know they're there. So Jared, how do I know if shame applies to me? Think about your life. Every time that you modify your words, your thoughts, your actions, your behavior to conform to what you think society needs from you or what will allow others to connect and love you is a form of shame. Every time that you modify your behavior, and you learned it in your childhood, right? At some point, somebody said to you, you need to be quieter. You shouldn't talk about this. You need to dress differently. You need to act differently. And those things that we were told, they were well intended. They were there to help us fit in, to live in a society, to understand this world that we're living in so that we can be part of it and feel like we have the love and compassion and respect and everything else that we want for ourselves. But the truth is, at some point you heard those things and you started to form a belief. And that belief was, I can't be me. If I don't change the way I act to be in alignment with what other people want from me, then I am going to be shunned. I am not going to receive the love and connection that I desire if I'm me. I was talking with somebody and we were talking about being nerds because I identify as a nerd. To me, it's all the sciencey, like psychological things, all of the really interesting, fascinating things. Anything that I have the word fascinating attached to, that's nerdy stuff to me. Science fiction, fantasy. And I was talking with this individual. They said to me, well, you're not a nerd. And they liked the same things. And the thing is their identity was such that they felt that being a nerd would be unacceptable. I can't be identified as a nerd. I'm cool. It's cool to like these kind of things. Well, why can't it be cool to be a nerd? They felt like there was something about them that had to change, an identity, a word, a description, so that that way they could be accepted. And we do it in all sorts of areas of our life. You know, I was on a date, and I went out on this date. I was talking with her, and she was telling me about how she needed somebody in her life that wanted to ski. That skiing was really important to her, and so she wanted that kind of person in her life. And my first inclination was to modify what I said to her in order to give myself a chance of being liked. I liked this woman, I was attracted to this woman, and I wanted to feel like I could connect with her. So normally what I might have said to her is this. I might have said, you know what, I love skiing. I've been skiing since I was 5. I really hope that I get to go skiing this year. It's something I've been wanting to do for a while, and I love that. All of those things are true. There's nothing about what I just said that would have been a lie, but it was a modification of the truth. And here's what I told her. I said to her, guess what? You know, I started skiing when I was 5, but when I was in my early 20s, my knees started hurting, and I haven't been able to ski since then. I know that that's really important to you to have somebody that skis, but I don't know if I'll be able to do it, to be honest. I want to. I've been going to the gym, working on strengthening my leg muscles, and my knees have been getting better every year. I'm able to do things every year that I couldn't do in past years. So I hope to go out this year, but I really don't know if I can. And throughout the date, there was multiple times where she said something, and I caught myself, because in the past, I would have changed my words in order to conform to this individual, in order to be more compatible with this person. Not because I was trying to be deceitful or untrustworthy, but because I wanted to connect. But the truth is, that is shame. Why do we have shame? It's because we believe that there is a portion of us. You believe there's part of you that is unacceptable, something that's undesirable, something that needs to be hidden, and that if you show those things to other people, you will not receive what you want back. You will not be accepted. You will not be loved. You will not have friendship. I have to modify who I am because who I am is not enough. And it's a lie that we all tell ourselves. It makes sense that when you look at the world around us, the majority of people, their biggest limiting belief, if you were to boil it down and summarize it, that most of us struggle with the belief that we are not enough. Because of these things in our childhood, these innocent things that our parents teach us to say, you need to fit in with society. And so we start hiding parts of ourselves. We start modifying behaviors. We start modifying words. And we show other people the things that we think they want to see, the things that are okay to show. And we abandon ourselves. Think about this. Imagine you have somebody in your life, and this person tells you how much they love you, how important you are to them. And let's say you have this passion that you absolutely love. Let's say that you are passionate about Star Wars. My daughter loves Star Wars. She tells everybody about Star Wars. She has an art book. She makes up Star Wars characters. She makes biographies and storylines and all these things. And then she goes and she shares them with people. And she loves it. That's my daughter's nerdy side, if I may say so. Her name's Allie. She's adorable, by the way. So she goes off and she shares her passion for Star Wars with somebody. Now imagine I tell her how much I love her and how much I appreciate her and how much I look up to her and all these things. But then we go into an environment and we're around new people. And she starts to tell them about Star Wars. And what do? I jump in, I interrupt her, and I change the topic. Now, if you're in that space, if you're in her space, and somebody that you love, somebody that says they love and care about you, is talking over the top of you, changing the topic, and hiding something that you are passionate about, and on some level, in your mind, you recognize and you say, they are ashamed of who I am. How is that going to make you feel? Do you really feel loved, adored, and appreciated by somebody who is hiding who you are because they are embarrassed by parts of you? Of course not. There's no way that you can feel fully loved and appreciated when you feel like they're embarrassed by you. But we do it to ourselves all the time. You can't have a relationship with yourself where you say, I love me and support me, and then hide parts of yourself from the world. I know you have those parts in you. Everybody does. We have that thing about us that we don't think we should share. So how do you go about changing that relationship with yourself? How do you change it from being a relationship where you are abandoning yourself, where you are showing that you're embarrassed about you? And it's little behaviors where you start to show yourself to the world. It's those interactions where when somebody asks you a question, you answer honestly and directly. You share exactly what you're going through and exactly what you love. Now, that doesn't mean that you share everything with everybody. There's boundaries. It's about understanding the person you're with, the amount of trust that you have with that individual, and the environment that you're in. If I'm in a business relationship and I'm talking with somebody about something with work, I'm probably not going to share every little insecurity and thought that comes to my mind. If I have an intrusive thought, maybe I'm being overly critical of somebody, I'm not necessarily going to share that either, right? Because I don't want to attack somebody, make somebody feel hurt or unloved or unappreciated for who they are. But it is about starting to tap into those things and share the things that are right for the moment. To start showing yourself more to people. Because really what it comes down to is a habit. You have a habit. If you think about it, this is how our mind works. We think something. That thought creates an experience in our mind, and our body doesn't recognize the difference between an experienced event and a thought event. It starts releasing the same chemicals. You think about this. Think if you have a fear of something. Maybe you're scared of speaking, and you start to think about giving a speech in front of a group of people. And you think about all the ways in which those things are going to go poorly, and you start feeling anxiety. You start feeling your pulse elevate, and you start feeling sweaty and clammy and everything else. And the nerves start flowing, and the adrenaline starts pumping, and all you did was think about that experience. Well, it's because you're thinking about a negative result. And so because of it, your body creates all those chemicals. And that's the same thing with getting over shameful behavior. Right now, you have a thought. And whether you realize it or not, you have an impulse decision where you modify your behavior and then you change something. And so what you do is you start changing your thought process. You become aware when you see yourself starting to modify your behavior or where you start to say something wrong. And maybe at first, what will happen is you'll do the modified behavior. You'll say the thing, and then as soon as you say it, you're like, crap, I can't believe it. I just abandoned myself. And then maybe you correct it to that person. You say, actually, what I wanted to say is this. Or I also wanted to share this with you. So it's recognizing that you're doing it. Once you recognize you're doing it, you start stopping the habit before it occurs. And then you start rewriting it through your actions. You have a positive thought. You have a positive emotion that comes into your body because of it, and then you reinforce it with those actions. Thought, emotion, and then corresponding supportive action. And through that, you start to rewrite the way that you you start to rewrite the way that you react to yourself. You start to rewrite your patterns. It is a difficult journey to take decades of self-abandonment, self-modification, and changing yourself for other people, hiding parts of yourself for other people because you've convinced yourself that those things are not acceptable. But you have to look at yourself and say, is this in alignment with who I am? Do I believe in this person? Do I love this person? Am I okay with this? And if you are in alignment with your values, the things that you care about and believe in, then go ahead and start sharing those things with the world. I know you can do it. I believe in you. And until next week, remember that you are not alone.